All right, here we are in the Vicky 3 Academy. I'm Walker, and we're discussing the Intelligentsia. So the Intelligentsia are like the armed forces, sort of one of these time agnostic things. You had Intelligentsia 2,500 years ago, right? This is not something that is new. It doesn't really care about whether or not industrialization is occurring or not. As long as there is the ability for humans to extract extra resources from each other. So like as soon as there's agriculture, then there's going to be learned people, and some of those learned people are going to be intelligentsia, and that's who we got over here. So the Intelligentsia are one of these that, at least in 1.0.5, are incredibly powerful, and so the question becomes like, how early do you start associating with them? In what ways do you start associating with them? And how can you help them out? And how can they help you out in turn as well? Because that's really important too. They are in favor of a lot of good laws, and by having them in your government, you're going to be able to rely pretty consistently on their clout helping you get those good laws done. So, first of all, who do they represent? So the Intelligentsia says here, literacy rate must be greater than 25%, and profession is not peasants. So that's the very baseline. Why profession is not peasants, I'm not 100% sure, because they have to be or they should be mostly clerks, bureaucrats, aristocrats, and capitalists. So those are the primary types that are going to be attracted here. There's also literacy rates. So as your literacy rate goes up, because you've been working on your education system, as your literacy rate goes up, your intelligentsia should naturally be getting more powerful. But if you think about that list that I just gave you, clerks, bureaucrats, aristocrats, capitalists, that's a good little group right there. It's interesting that academics are not currently being attracted to the intelligentsia, but that's okay. It's conceivable that we just don't have any. Do we start with a university? We do not start with a university. That's why. But if we had one, then you would see academics going there as well. So the intelligentsia, they are going to be easy to give power to, because most of their pops are going to be coming from government buildings, which means that you have an incredible amount of say over how much money these guys get, and then in turn that'll be an incredible amount of say out of how much political strength they get. And so if you want to make them incredibly powerful, you give them tons of money. If you want to make them not powerful, you do not give them tons of money. That's why I think, like, generally the recommendation for people to just like run extremely high taxes and extremely low wages, I don't think that actually helps you, because I think that's going to be drawing power away from the wrong people in your country, whereas you want to be drawing power away from the right people in your country. You want to be taking money away from the people who are not supporting the interest groups that you align yourself with, and then giving money to the interest groups that you do align yourself with, right? That's not even gamified. That's like logical and obvious. And something that, like, it's kind of a Dedoy thing, but once you get there, you'll appreciate it. So why do I care so much about intelligentsia? Let's go over their bonuses first. First of all, they're negative. That doesn't matter, and that's fine, because like at the beginning of the game, you don't care about that stuff anyway. The only thing that is important there is whether or not you drop down to being a great power or not. Oh, we're not a great power. We're starting as a major power. All right, so that's interesting. Ottoman Empire is going to be really fun. Avant-garde. So this is one of the tech bonus IGs. There's also a tech bonus on industrialists and on armed forces. As a great power, you gotta do your best to hit at least a +5 with those three, because otherwise you're gonna fall behind your competitors in comparison to technology, and you're gonna feel it. But propagandists is also a really good reason to have a powerful intelligentsia, because if you're working with the intelligentsia, then you're probably going to have pretty liberal laws in place, because they're in favor of a lot of liberal laws. In which case, you're going to have a country that has a fairly high standard of living in comparison to things, just because you're going to be approaching society from an industrial standpoint anyway, just to make maximum use out of your laws. And that means you're going to have extremely productive and wealthy industries, and you combine that with liberal laws, and you become a migratory superpower where like everyone in the world just wants to come move to wherever you are. And so having propagandists with a plus if 25%, or if you can get them up to strong and happy, a plus 50% migration attraction. That's going to be huge. So, laws. As I said, they're in favor, right? The 1.0.5, they're in favor of multiculturalism. The only annoying thing here is that they just kind of don't really like dedicated police force, which is a little annoying, but not the end of the world. Guaranteed liberties is pretty good. They do oppose National Guards and secret police, so that can cause you some issues. They're in favor of right of assembly and protected speech, so that means that they will help you get out of censorship if you want to get out of censorship, which you do. I think right of assembly does the same thing that censorship does, but without a text spread penalty. It's just better. If you want to do protected speech instead, you could do that too. But I think this is just like a better version of those two. Rights of women, they're in favor of that. They're just in favor of like literally every conceivable liberal position right now that you can think of. And so that means that if you want to make dramatic forward steps in the social programs of your culture and your empire, that you want a strong intelligentsia. And then, you want to make sure that you just give them money. Like, this is not just about the intelligentsia approval. In fact, I don't even really care that much about the intelligentsia approval that I get here. It's good, and I'm happy to have it. It's the government wages. I want to give them money. And that is why getting out of hereditary bureaucrats into appointed bureaucrats is such a big deal. Yep. So that's Walker. That's Intelligentsia. I think that's a wrap on IGs for today. All right. Like and subscribe. Yeah. Do that. That's important for the growth of the channel. All right. Yeah. That's Walker.